everyone, thank you very much for joining us for today's webinar brought to you by UK University Search. Today is the second of our Results Day webinar series, and that's a series of 3 webinars taking place every day at 12 leading up to Results Day on Thursday to ensure you have the most up-to-date information from universities and give you the chance to ask any questions you have and receive a response from university experts. Today we're going to be talking about Results Day, and we've got 5 panellists here from different universities to talk to you about Results Day this year, how it's going to work, what to expect, how to plan, how to keep calm, and what to do if you end up wanting to resit, go into clearing or go into adjustments. First, we'll be talking to Pete from the University of Law about making a plan for Results Day, which is a really fantastic idea to ensure you go into Thursday feeling prepared for every eventuality. Then we'll talk to Charlotte from the University of Central Lancashire about keeping calm and positive the night before Results Day and not letting nerves get the better of you. After that, we'll talk to Donovan from the University of Roehampton about what you can expect this Results Day, what the day is going to look like for you, when to check UCAS Track, and collecting your results. Then we'll talk to Jess Smith from the University of East Anglia about what you can do if you're not happy with your results, such as resits. And we'll finish up with Rebecca from the University of South Wales, talking about what to do if you don't get into your first choice, the option of going to your insurance choice, or going through clearing. If you have any questions you'd like to ask our panellists today, the Q&A will be open throughout the session for you to submit those questions, and we'll get a response back to you either on the chat or we'll answer the questions live at the end of the session. If you're watching on Zoom, please click the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen to submit a question, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can use the live chat option on the right-hand side of your screen to submit questions, and one of our representatives will pass them over to us. Okay, we've got lots to cover today, so let's get started. I'm going to pass you over to Pete from the University of Law.
Thanks, Megan. Morning, everyone. And firstly, I think in terms of starting, I'll start with introducing myself. So I'm Pete Edge. I'm the Director of Admissions, Access and Participation at the University of Law. A little bit about my background. So I went to university now quite some time ago, which is quite depressing, and did a modern history degree and have worked in higher education ever since. A little bit about the University of Law. As you can probably guess, we specialise in law. We specialise in law and anything affiliated to it, really. So we do law, criminology, sociology, policing, things like law with business. And we've also, in the last 5 years, started our own business faculty as well. If you want to find out anything about us and the courses we have available in clearing, you can visit law.ac.uk/clearing, and you can speak to the team via live chat or via phone. And there's a number of clearing videos there as well with our current students who've been through the process that you can benefit from looking at in advance. But down to business. So when it comes to planning for Results Day, really, one of the key things you can do is being proactive. And actually, the fact that you're watching this live stream is a great start and a great thing to have done. And I think fundamentally, the different presentations that you're going to have after mine are all really based on planning well. I'll pass over at some point in the next few minutes over to Charlotte, who's going to talk about that kind of how to kind of stay calm, and really having a plan is going to help you stay calm. So that proactivity and doing a lot of the work in advance of Results Day is really going to help you with a number of the other topics that will be covered later on. And when it comes to that, you can start with really by revisiting the kind of the research and the work you did during the main cycle. So every year UCAS released some stats on the previous year's clearing cycle. And last year, I think it was about 69% of students had engaged with some of their main cycle choices as part of their clearing research and communication. So it's definitely something you need to think about doing, is dust off all the research you did to choose your 5 choices in the main cycle, and really revisit it and see what, see whether the things that matter to you then still matter to you now. Revisit the kind of the courses that those institutions are offering, and you can see already which of those courses might be available for you in clearing as well. So you can start to get an idea of what's still out there for you to engage with and which avenues maybe already might be closed off. One of the things that I'm a big advocate of is doing a scoring kind of scorecard or a score matrix to help you compare different institutions. So You're going to have, as you would have found in the main cycle, you'll have institutions that are campus-based institutions. You'll have ones that are more kind of appropriate for commuter kind of type students, where you're kind of travel in and travel out every day. Some will be based in city centres, some will be in the middle of nowhere. There's a massive difference in terms of institutions, and also there's a big difference in terms of the types of courses they offer. Great example being law. You can have law courses that are quite practically focused, and you can have ones that are quite theory based and things as well. So it's important that you revisit all of the research you've done previously and update it. And now's the perfect time to do that. And what that will do is it will help focus your mind on what really does matter to you. So when I suggest making a scorecard for yourself, it shouldn't be one that is identical to one that your friend might do, for example. You need to make choices that are right for you, and not ones that are just right generically based on what you think you should be doing, based on your peer group and things as well. So to give you some examples of what I chose to do when I was going to uni, I really love my sport, I really love my music. I wanted a particular institution in a particular part of the country because I wanted to be relatively close to home, but not too far away. So they were things that on my scorecard would have been much more valuable than maybe some stuff that might be on yours. But I would certainly advocate doing something like that, because I think critically it's going to help you think objectively, and it will try and take some of the emotion out of your decision making. And results day can be quite an emotive time. So doing things like that will just help you have everything laid out in front of you so that you can plan for what results day looks like with as much documented stuff in the background as possible. And then if your parents or your peers or whoever needs to support you through that process, they've got something to relate back to as well. So rather than it being all in your head, you've got stuff written down that you can go back to and revisit time after time if you need to help you with what results day looks like for you. So in terms of other tips to kind of think about, and this does touch again on some of the points that my colleagues will make, when you're planning, you almost need to plan for the unexpected. So don't just assume you're going to get your results and happy days and away you go, but equally don't assume that you're not either. So make sure you've got a plan, firstly, of what results day looks like for you, and that we'll come to that later in the presentations today. But know, for example, what your school or college is doing this year, because this year is going to be very different to previous years. So know if you're getting results sent to you, know what time your school or college opens if you're able to go in, know what that will look like. Do you have to go in kind of at a set time because of the situation at the moment? Know what that looks like for you. Know what your friends are doing. And the reason I say that is because if you wake up on results day and you've already got messages from your mates telling you what they've been doing and what's happened to them, that's immediately going to stress you out, because you're going to feel way behind the curve in terms of what everyone else is doing. So know how everyone else is approaching it, and make sure that you've got your day planned out so that you don't suddenly feel like you're being reactive to stuff. I think that word proactiveness and that word proactivity is really important throughout the day. Because it will help you feel more in control of what's happening, and you will have more confidence then in terms of what you're doing as well. The other thing I wanted to mention in terms of proactivity is knowing when to take your time as well. So yes, you need to be kind of busy and you need to be proactive in terms of planning for the day, but UCAS have a 3 p.m. window on results day for when people can add their clearing choice, and that's there for a reason, and it's to stop you from making knee-jerk reactions that you're going to regret either immediately or in a week or a month's or year's time. So use that window to do your research and to use that scorecard and to get out there and speak to institutions to understand what's available to you, because you can't really do anything else with that window of time. You can't add a choice before that point. So use that time to make sure that you've made as considered as choice as you possibly can. And then when you do finally add that institution and that course to your track, you can be confident that you've done it for the right reasons. And then you can then just look forward to what's going to happen, in terms of getting your induction materials and so on and so forth, and looking forward to starting your course. So I think really that proactivity, hopefully you'd have observed, is constant throughout all the different things that we've mentioned. And I think crucially what that will do is it will help you then when it comes to listening to the other speakers who are come up next, understand not only how to kind of plan from a a perspective of staying calm and staying rational through results day, but it will also help you understand the different components of results day this year as well. I think the last thing I'll say really is that there's tens of thousands of students that go through this process every single year, and that will be the same this year. There's a lot of other circumstances that are very different, but fundamentally, as hopefully is evident by the fact we've got so many institutions here today, universities have worked incredibly hard to make sure that the experiences this autumn and beyond are as normal as they can be for students despite the circumstances. So you should very much still be looking forward to having an amazing time at university and getting so much out of it. That won't change. Yes, the experience might be slightly different for a period of time, and clearly none of us know how long this will be the case for, but you should all be incredibly proud still of what you've achieved, and you should be incredibly excited about what you're going to go on and achieve as well. So Megan, I think that's a great point to hand back, and to wish everyone the best of luck for results day. And again, if you want to speak with the University of Law, please do get in touch and we'll be happy to speak with you.
That's perfect. Thank you very much, Pete. What we'll do after the webinar as well, you'll get a little email, and that will have all the contact details for all the panelists today. So if you do want to have a chat to Pete or anyone else who's going to be on the webinar today, you'll get those details and you can find out a little bit more. So next we're going to be talking to Charlotte from the University of Central Lancashire, and she's going to be talking to you about how to keep calm and positive and to keep your nerves under control on results day.
Thank you, Megan. Hello, everyone. And as Megan said, I'm Charlotte Flynn. I'm from the University of Central Lancashire, and I'm going to talk about keeping calm and taking on the day positively. So firstly, as Pete mentioned, over the next few days, it's really important to take time to reflect on what you've accomplished so far during your studies. So you've already had so many years of education leading up to this point, and regardless of the outcome on results day, you should feel proud of all that you've achieved. So in the days running up to results day and perhaps the night before, you might like to take time to write down or talk about what you've achieved within your school and sixth form life. You could ask yourself questions like, what am I most proud of? What challenges did I overcome? And what surprised me the most? These questions will enable you to reflect on all that you've achieved and give you that pause and time to think before you embark on this next adventure that's ahead of you. Another positive activity that you can be doing over the next few days is to remind yourself of why you want to study your chosen subject. And you can do this by reading over your personal statement. So you might have written that a few weeks ago. It might feel like a completely different world when you wrote it. But by digging it out and having a look at what you wrote down, you can remind yourself of your achievements, and you can also be really well equipped so that if you need to speak to a university on results day, perhaps you need to change your place, then you'll have all of that information right at the top of your head, and your personal statement will be on hand as well. So I wonder how you are feeling. I can definitely remember how I felt on results day and the days in the run up to it. And it's very normal to feel apprehensive about your results. You've worked so hard towards them, and you might feel that there's a lot resting upon the outcome. But remember, whatever the outcome is, there's people all around you to support you. And just within this webinar, you'll see just how much universities are doing to support you. And you'll also have a lot of support around you from your school or college, family and friends. Keeping positive the night before is a really good idea. And even if you're nervous, try to look towards the positives so that you're not worrying too much about what you're unable to influence. All your work is already done. So a good way to keep calm is to make sure that everything in a practical sense is all ready for you, so that you're not worrying about all of those little niggly things that you might have wanted to prepare. So a little tick list for you. You need to make sure that you know how you're going to collect your results or receive your results and what time that will be at. Make sure your phone is charged, and make sure that you've thought about a quiet place with signal that you can use if you need to call anyone. And you undoubtedly will want to share your news either way with family and friends, and I'm sure that it will be news that you'll really enjoy sharing. A pen and paper is really handy to have on hand, so to write notes about different things, to track contact details you might need, so make sure that you have a pen and paper there ready. And also another practical thing that you can think about, and Pete mentioned as well, is to think about what time to wake up and who you'd like with you when you look at your results for the first time. There'll be plenty going on in the world of social media on results day and in the run up to results day. So make use of everything that's out there for you. So we at UCLan, for example, will be posting and available to speak on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And each university will have lots to look at and get excited about. So there'll be entertaining videos, I'm sure, informative tours, and this will help you get excited and allow you to picture yourself in your new university life. You might want to get thinking a little bit about the backup universities so that you're prepared for any scenario. So just in case your first choice plans do change for any reason, think about what your backup plan might be, so that your backup plan becomes exciting and not daunting. You could make a list of the contact details of universities that you think would be appealing to you. And also, as Pete mentioned, making sure that you know what your priority is from university. Is it the course that you really are passionately wanting to know is exactly right for you? Or is it more the location or the extracurricular activities that will really mean the most for you when you're picking your university? So at UCLan, we'll have plenty to get you informed about your university place, and I'm sure it's the same across lots of universities. We'll have live chats going on where you can speak directly to admissions tutors. We'll have a call centre, which all universities have as well. We'll have a live Q&A where you can speak to us directly and speak to students. And lots of universities will have open days as well. So ours is going to be on the 14th and 15th, so Friday and Saturday. It will obviously be virtual this year, but there'll be a wealth of opportunity for you to find out. So that's just to make you informed that, yes, there's lots to think about, and if your results aren't quite what you expect, or if you've decided to adjust your offer for other reasons, just know that there's so much out there for you to know that you're making an excellent decision. So once you've prepped and done all the research that you feel you need to make, think about how you can make sure that that results day evening is as restful and refreshing as it can be, so that you can get a good night's sleep. So just trying the following basics, like getting outside for some kind of movement, whether that be sport, going for a walk, going for a run, getting some fresh air can really help take your mind off things. As can seeing friends if you're able to, or chatting to someone who either is in the same position as you and you can share experiences, or perhaps you want to speak to someone about something completely different to completely take your mind off what you might be feeling. The other good thing is everyone, it's nice to have a nice tea, or, well, I'm Northern, so I say tea, or dinner to look forward to. So make sure that the night before you have something that's really delicious to eat, and also that the next morning you have a nice breakfast planned, so that you're not just waking up thinking it's results day, but you're thinking, I have a nice breakfast, or a nice kind of run up to you getting the results as well. So to finish my section, I just want to remind you that the best really is yet to come. I can vividly remember the moment that I got my results, and I can say that all of the years that have followed that have just been really incredible. So I'm excited for you about what's to come. I hope you are too, and I look forward throughout this webinar to answer some of your questions, and the very best of luck, and enjoy it.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Next up, we're going to be talking to Donovan from the University of Roehampton. And Donovan is going to be talking to you about what to expect this results day, when to check UCAS Track and things like that. Thank you, Donovan.
Hi everyone. Yeah, as Megan just said, my name is Donovan. I'm from the University of Roehampton. I'm a schools and colleges engagement officer, so doing sessions like this, hopefully in person when we can, but online and virtually at the moment with various different schools and colleges and students joining university very soon. So yeah, a little bit of background about me, I suppose. I studied at Roehampton before I started working there. So any questions for us, I can hopefully answer them for you later on. I studied education studies and some modules towards being a qualified teacher. So there's aspects there that you can do at Roehampton. And just a little bit about us before we sort of head into the results day information. So we're sort of in southwest London in the green area that you can expect as you get towards that part of London, which is kind of like the best of both worlds in terms of being commutable into London, enjoying that, but also getting a nice campus university where we've got lots of sort of grade 1 and 2 listed buildings that you can have lectures in and just enjoy being that side of sort of the city, but also having the facilities as well. And then in terms of our clearing offering, so as has been mentioned before with other universities, there is the option to call us on results day through our sort of direct call number, which is online, or there is also with Roehampton the option to fill in a self-referral form, which can be preferred if you know your results on the day and you feel actually I don't want to speak to someone. There's the option to fill in the online form with your grades, and then someone will either be able to make a decision based on those, or they'll be able to give you a call and chat to you in a little bit more detail, but already knowing a little bit about you. And if you already know perhaps right now that maybe you haven't applied through UCAS already, or you're sort of waiting for results but haven't thought about university until now, there is the option to go onto our website and request a call back on results day. So you don't have to sort of be spending time chasing us down. We can sort of give you a call. You can request which time you would like that on as well. So yeah, I think as been mentioned before, as much preparation as you can do beforehand with things like that, maybe requesting a callback, will hopefully just save you some time on the day and save you some of the pressure that might be thinking about now that actually you can avoid on the day. So one really important thing about results day and what you might want to expect is UCAS Track could become or can become a big part of that day. So understanding the system, knowing where things are to find them, all of that stuff is really important because you don't want on the day to be running around trying to find information and confusing yourself more than actually needs to be. So some of the things to do, make sure you have your UCAS Track details ready to go before the day, because you don't want to be waking up realizing you don't know your password, all that sort of stuff. Resetting it can add pressure on the day, so that's really important. And then make sure your details are accurate, because if you log into UCAS Track and then are waiting for people to reply to you, make sure they've got the right emails and things. And then, as I said, just understand, log into the system, have a look, make sure you know which part is going to come up with whether you've been accepted, which part of the webpage might say other information and things to find out about universities. So in terms of the bit that you're probably thinking about results day 4, so actually receiving your results, collecting results, all that sort of stuff, schools and colleges at the moment have been told that they can welcome students to collect results, but obviously that will vary greatly and dependent on each college. So it might, or school, it might depend on the spaces they've got, it might depend on the number of students. So actually it's really, really, really important for you to understand and fully understand what your school or college is saying in terms of how you can collect your results if they're letting you do it. Because we've spoken to a whole range of our partner schools that we work with, and some are using sort of specific timeframes for certain students, so they are allowing students to collect them, but certain people at certain times, or they're not allowing students at all, or some of them are doing it based on subject. So it can really vary, so make sure you do understand that. And then another thing that's important with collecting your results is not only to understand what your school and college are doing, but also to understand what your offer is actually based on. So is it based on just your UCAS points? So if your grades in a couple of subjects, if one goes up and the other one goes down, will that be okay? Or is it specifically based on certain grades in certain subjects? So it's really important that you have a think about that side as well as how your school and college are operating on the day. And then, as I said, we've spoken to all of our partner schools. I think it's sort of 80 or something partner schools that we're working with, and we've collected as much information as we can about how they're going to be operating on the day for those that are sort of sharing results with you and how you can collect them. So some of the ways they've mentioned it is they will do it by email. So they might email you directly to say these are the grades that you've got, and you can sort of open it through there. Others have said they're going to use their student portal. So it might be that they have like a virtual learning environment or something like that, like a Moodle or something that you can log into, and they can upload it on there for you. As I say, some have said they're going to do collection, but it will be in a slightly different structure than normal. And then a collection of them have said they're going to do a combination of all of them. So they might email you and allow you to come in. So as I say, make sure you may know already how that's going to work. If you don't know, contact your school or college the next couple of days so that you know in advance of results day how is the quickest way and obviously the best way for yourself as well, in terms of whether you're able to go in, whether you would like to receive them at home through email when they're doing that. Make sure you know what is available for you. And important timeframes to sort of be aware of. So at 8 a.m, that's when on results day, that's when sort of the UCAS track updates happen from UCAS's side. So that's when sort of UCAS will have been speaking to the universities in the morning, and then UCAS get that information. They'll update your UCAS track from 8 a.m. in the morning. So that's when you can log in. And in terms of if the schools and colleges are emailing your results out or collecting them, schools and colleges actually set those timeframes themselves. So as I say, it might be that your school or college is giving you a specific time. That's great. It might be that they say it's between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. It could be that they give you sort of a time frame. So please make sure that you understand fully what your school or college is doing, and be aware of the UCAS 8 a.m. sort of update time as well, because that's when they can update the UCAS track saying, congratulations, you've got into your firm insurance, or unfortunately we need to go into clearing because of the based on the grades. And then the final thing I'll say in terms of sort of being prepared for results day and what it might look like is make sure as much as possible to keep yourself free basically up until around about that 3 a.m. deadline, because if something does happen and actually on results day you think, I do want to call over universities, I want to ring them up and chat to them and see what I can do, having a lunch booked or having something to do with other people might create a pressure that might not necessarily need to be there. So make sure there's a bit of flexibility in things that you're able to do, because you want to be available up until that 3 p.m. deadline to, as Pete said, make sure that you are aware of all of your options and the best options for you, and have had time to think about them before you get to the sort of UCAS clearing time where you can put your clearing options in and don't feel rushed into those decisions. So I think for results day, yeah, the main thing is sort of be aware of that sort of 8 a.m. moment. UCAS can update their side. Be aware of your school specifically, how it's going to work this year more than ever, because it's likely to have changed slightly, at least from what it was last year. And just be aware that if it is via email, what email it's going to. If it is via your student portal, etc., what are your login details. Make sure you're as prepared as possible in advance of that day. And then, as I say, make sure, as the next presenter is going to mention, that you understand sort of how the UCAS side works in terms of logging in and what you need to be looking for and where it will be. So yeah, I look forward to hopefully answering some questions later on. And yeah, I'll hand back to the UK Unisearch guys.
Thank you very much, Donovan. Next up, we're going to be talking to Jess from the University of East Anglia. Jess is going to be talking to you about what you can do if you're not happy with your results in terms of resits. So I'm sure this will be a very useful bit. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you so much, Megan. So as has just been mentioned, my name is Jess. I'm one of the higher education advisors here at the University of East Anglia. Now, I am hoping to be able to share my screen, so I do hope that you are able to see that. So for those of you who aren't too aware of the University of East Anglia, we are just based in the east of England. So you can just see us based just here. We are a top 25 UK university. We have TEF Gold. We're excellently ranked in terms of research citations, and we are just based in a little bump of England. And I always have to say this because when people ask about East Anglia, sometimes the location doesn't necessarily just jump straight into their mind. So I always do just want to mention that. But we are a campus-based university just outside the city centre of Norwich. Okay, and obviously when students are looking at their options, and particularly in clearing, they will want to think about what type of university it is that they want to go to. They will have done their research. You'll know whether or not you want to go to a campus-based university or a city-based university, and you may also know which types of courses it is that you're looking for, and the universities that do those courses. At UEA, we are a little bit more broad, so we do the 4 faculties of sciences, arts and humanities, medicine and health, and social sciences. And there will always be some courses for us that do not go into clearing. So things like medicine, and we do not anticipate going into clearing, and they haven't gone into clearing in recent years. But for a lot of our other courses, they may go into clearing. So if you are looking at any of those courses, please do feel free to come and chat with me. The reason I shared my screen is because of this flow chart. And obviously, the section that I'm talking about is what to do if you're not happy with your grades. Now, the first thing that I did want to just say is that there are a number of reasons that you may feel that you are not happy with your grades. One might be because those grades have caused you to miss your firm choice of university. The second choice might be that they have caused you to miss your firm and your insurance choice of university, or it may be that you are worried about not only the fact that you have missed your firm and insurance choice, but the fact that you're worried about what opportunities there may be in clearing. And I really hope that the speakers who have gone before me and will go after, and myself, are hopefully here to reassure you that there are so many different opportunities available in clearing. And one thing that I do want to just make you aware is that if nobody has read this, fantastic, and I use that with a slightly hint of irony, there is the Student Guide to Post-16 Qualification Results, Summer 2020, that the government has published. And this is where I have gotten this slide from. And it talks you through how grades have been, how you've been allocated your grades, what the process was. It answers a lot of common questions. But basically what I did want to say is that under the current situation, as things currently stand, the only reason that you would have grounds to appeal your results, that the grades that you have been allocated, is if you think that there has been an error in the process, not necessarily at the minute because you are unhappy with the grades. So what they are saying is that if you are not happy with your grades that you've currently got, the best people to speak to is your school. Please do speak to your school or your college, and they will be able to talk you through how the process went if you were unable to read the document, but they are the best people to speak to. If you do want to go down the appeals route, and we are thinking at this current stage that those appeals are going to be quite few and far between under the current system, then it might be that you want to perhaps resit. So it might be that you want to resit because of your grades, and the autumn dates are just in the blue corner at the bottom. However, that's not the only options. What I did want to clarify is that you do have a number of different options. So first of all, if you have missed your grades, that doesn't mean that your firm choice will decline to offer you a place. Okay, they are spending the days at the minute going through all of the results that we have got. We are looking back at your application, your grade, your personal statement, your reference, and the grades, GCSEs and things like that you may have already achieved. And we are trying to do our best, particularly if you are a firmed student or an insurance student. We are trying to do our absolute best by you to make sure that we can offer those students a place if at all possible. Okay, if it turns out on results day that you are not able and you are no longer hold an offer from your firm or your insurance choice, there are so many possibilities available in clearing. Last year, over 73,000 students went through clearing. They got their university place through clearing. And clearing has changed over the years compared to what it was when I applied to university 15 years ago. Thousands, tens of thousands of students find their loving forever academic home through clearing, and they have absolutely fantastic experiences at university, and they get the degrees in the subject areas that they want to go through. So my advice would be, first of all, check if your firm or your insurance has accepted you, and that will appear in UCAS Track at 8 AM on results day. After that, if that is not the case, start to have a look to see what opportunities are available in clearing. And if you do wish to resit, please do bear in mind that this may mean that you are unable to start university this academic year. Some universities may have January start dates for a couple of their courses, and some may be able to hold off until then. However, as far as I'm aware, the vast majority of students who would sit in the autumn exam dates would then come to university in September 2021. So you do have to think about whether or not there are weigh up your options. Do you have some fantastic opportunities available in clearing now, and you would be able to progress with your academic career and your future next steps this September through clearing? Or is it that you want to go through the resit process either in the autumn term or to resit your final year? Obviously, that is dependent on your school's opportunities. Or the other option is that you may wish to take a gap year and see what opportunities are available next year as well. However, I did just want to say that there is, at the minute, what we anticipate to be limited grounds for appeal, but please do know what the grounds for appeal are and have a look at the different documentation. And then if you are unhappy with your grades and perhaps you haven't been able to go where you want to go, then you can look at resitting. But there are lots of opportunities, so please do your research. I really hope that that's given you just a little bit more information about some of the options and what you might want to consider. My personal advice would be that if you have missed your grades, please do have a look through clearing at either the universities that you looked at in your main cycle, so the 5 universities, or other universities that suit your criteria. And there is something called UCAS Plus this year, where you might be able to be matched with other universities that maybe you hadn't thought about previously. It is just about listening to what is being said in this webinar, doing your research, preparing, staying calm is absolutely essential, and just being aware that what happens on results day can be a bit of a shock. We understand that it is quite an unnerving time, but please do be aware that there are so many universities out there who will be available on the phones, on web chats, on social media, who are there to support you, who are there to answer your questions. And we really do hope that you find a course and a university that is right for you and can really get you on the next steps to be where you want to be. So if you do have any more questions, please do feel free to ask me at the end. Our clearing call centre number is there if you do want it and you're interested in any of the courses at UA. But I am going to hand back to Megan now, and please do ask any questions. I'm happy to answer them.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jess. If you could just end your share screen for me, that would be perfect. Thank you. Okay, we're now going on to our last panellist, and that's Rebecca from the University of South Wales. Rebecca will be talking to you about what you can do if you don't get into your first choice. So we've had a lot of questions on the Q&A today about going into clearing, about selecting your insurance choice and things like that. So hopefully Rebecca will be able to answer lots of those questions for you. Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thanks very much, Megan. It's good to see you all today. Well, not see you, but talk to you. I feel like I've got the short straw. We were discussing as panelists before the webinar because some of what I'm going to say has been said already. But to be honest, particularly this results day, I don't think it's a bad thing to hear those messages again. So I'm Rebecca. I work at the University of South Wales. Just very briefly about the university, we've got 3 campuses in South Wales, in Newport, Cardiff and Pontypridd. We've got clearing vacancies across most of our programmes available for September 2020 entry. You can chat to students. If you go on our website, southwales.ac.uk, you can chat to our current student ambassadors at any time at the moment. We'll be available by phone. We're obviously available now, but we'll be available from 8 AM on results day when, as we've heard, when Track goes live, Track unfreezes, and you'll be able to see what your options might be. And we're also running a series of clearing virtual events over the coming days after results day as well. So I'd encourage you, if we're on your long list or your short list, to certainly have a look and check us out. In terms of advice then, and what I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens if you don't get the results that you're looking for. And I know that is something that's weighing heavily on students' minds at the moment. What results are gonna happen now more than ever? But my first piece of advice certainly is not to panic. We've heard the advice around how you can prepare, how you can sort of calm yourself down, speak to friends, see what they're doing. We've heard that, and they're all really valuable tips, but not to panic. I think everyone, universities included, know that there is nothing normal about this results day that's approaching. There's nothing normal about confirmation and clearing this year. So I think you should be confident that when you're phoning universities or when you are having those conversations, the universities are trying as best they can to take into account all of the factors that will have affected possibly the results you receive on Thursday. Like many universities, and we've heard this already, USW, University of South Wales, is no different. We'll be considering the whole application. So yes, the grades that you are given on Thursday will play a part, but so does grades from last year, so does your personal statement, reference from your school or college, or who you've appointed as a referee. So we're certainly looking at the whole application and not just focusing solely on the results that you'll receive on Thursday. Whatever the outcome, and I've been on the chat while my colleagues have been speaking, whatever the outcome, I would encourage you to get in touch with universities. There are, as we've heard, hundreds of staff across the UK waiting to speak to you on the phone, on live chat, social media, however you want to get in touch. So if there's something on that, even if it says you're in, congratulations, and there's something you're not sure about, you have a question, please, I would encourage you to get in touch and ask those questions of the staff at the universities. This is a really small point, but hopefully useful. Make sure you check your junk email folder. We advise that quite early on in the cycle, but you know, it might be that the information you're looking for has ended up in a junk email, in your junk email folder of all the days for that to happen. So please make sure that you're checking your junk email folder for any sort of information that you might have missed otherwise. So if you don't get the grades then, so your first step, your first sort of port of call then would be your insurance choice. If you haven't met the grades for your firm choice, your insurance choice essentially becomes your firm choice then. And when I'm working with students throughout the cycle, we always encourage them to think carefully about their insurance choice, to make sure that it's somewhere that they'd be happy to go if they needed to go there, that they don't just put anything down thinking they won't have to access it. If that's the case for you and you've been accepted at your insurance choice because you haven't got into your firm choice and you're happy with that, I'd still advise revisiting the university website, undertaking if there's a possibility to visit the campus. Some universities are offering that. It's quite a small number at the moment, or a virtual event, just to make sure that you're absolutely happy with things, because as we've heard already, this has been a very strange year. Circumstances can change over time from when you made that university or that course your insurance choice. So revisit the university website, find out more about it. You may, if it's relevant, need to make an accommodation application. So it's a good idea to do that as soon as you can if you're looking for university accommodation. And also a reminder, if you change course through clearing or through your insurance choice, to contact Student Finance England, Student Finance Wales, the student finance body where you've made your application, to update your university details. So if that changes, you need to make sure you update that. Just a small point as well, you might see on your track on Thursday morning UCC. That means that, and it will be explained to you on track, and you should receive an email from the university explaining this decision. That's an unconditional change of course, and what might have happened there is you might not have achieved the grades required for perhaps the first year of the degree course, but the university might have reconsidered your application and offered you a place on a course with a foundation year. So have a look at the details of that offer if you have made the grades that for the course that you were initially interested in. Have a look at it, have a look at whether that meets your needs, and then you can make a decision. You've got around 5 days then to make a decision about whether that might be the option for you or whether you want to look elsewhere. So clearing then, we've heard already, it used to have, back in the day when I was making my university application as well, it used to have a bit of a sort of negative sort of stigma around clearing, sort of whatever was left for the students who hadn't quite got the grades. Clearing has changed dramatically over the past, I would say, 5 or 6 years. There are lots and lots of opportunities available at a huge selection of universities. So I would certainly not consider clearing to be any sort of backup or negative option anymore. Students who are eligible for clearing are students who haven't received any offers, so they haven't got the grades they need, they haven't got any offers. They might have applied late in the cycle, so they're going directly into clearing then for their university application goes directly into clearing. or you might have simply changed your mind. You might have, with everything that has gone on this year, you might have just changed your mind from the choices you originally made. It's UCAS Track, we've heard already. UCAS Track will tell you if you're in clearing. It'll be quite clear on your UCAS Track's screen. In terms of finding a clearing course, and we've had a couple of questions about that on the chat, I'd suggest the UCAS website will list all of the courses, the clearing vacancies that are available, or if you've got a bit of a short list of institutions that you've considered previously or you are considering now, you can visit individual university websites and see what courses are available there. Clearing has been open since the 6th of July, although the busiest period is certainly coming up from 8 AM on Thursday, but clearing has been open as a process since the 6th of July. So clearing vacancies are being advertised now. So we heard earlier on in the webinar the importance of kind of taking these next few days now to think about your options. Best case scenario, and I don't want to say worst case scenario, but just a different scenario perhaps if you haven't quite got the grades that you weren't initially expecting. We've heard a brief mention as well about Clearing Plus. So when you go onto your UCAS Track, if you are in clearing, you'll see an option that says See Matches. That's a new service provided by UCAS this year, and it's for what UCAS will have done is based on the applications that you've made. If you haven't been successful in your application, UCAS will have through their algorithms and back sort of all the kind of decision making code and things that go into that, will have generated some possible options for you that might be of interest. Okay, so it just gives you another option. It's not to say that you have to go with those matches that have been given to you, but it certainly, I would say, cuts down potentially on the amount of research you have to do if there's something within those matches that really work for you. Just a couple of top tips from me really to finish off. I've just mentioned it briefly, but scenario planning is important. I think you've got a couple of days now, and you've got webinars like this, you've got lots of information out there. So thinking ahead, what you might do if this happens, if I get this or if I get that. Results day will be an emotional day for a number of reasons. I imagine it's going to be more emotional than ever before this year. So I think it's difficult sometimes to kind of come up with rational decisions and thinking. So I think trying to plan that out as far as possible beforehand is useful. I'd advise, if you are contacting universities, to make the call yourself. I've lost count over the years of the number of parents I've spoken to. Sometimes students are upset, which is understandable. Sometimes students are in bed, which is less understandable, I would say. So please be prepared to make that call yourself and to have that conversation, because you are best placed to tell us what it is you've got, what it is you're looking for. I would encourage you to visit the university. Appreciate that. So I'll say visit, because I appreciate that can be a bit challenging. So if there are opportunities to physically visit the universities that you're interested in, that will be clear on their website. So have a look at that. Or it might be that it's a virtual experience, but definitely engage with that as much as possible. Have a look around the campuses, have a look at videos around accommodation, around student support services, chat to student ambassadors as well to get a bit of a sense of what student life is like, and ask those questions. There's a lot of talk at the moment and a lot of press you will have seen in the media around blended learning and what's the student experience going to be like in 2020. Well, the current students have experienced blended learning since probably the beginning of March this year. So they have had some experience of blended learning and what that student experience has looked like, that changed student experiences look like. So ask the questions of those current students that you'll be able to speak to on the website. Just a small point as well, you could receive, based on sort of Clearing Plus and being matched with different universities, you could receive calls from universities over the coming days after results day, offering you, talking to you about the places they might have available. I would advise you not to feel overwhelmed by this, because it can be quite an emotional and overwhelming time. I would encourage you to engage positively with the person who gives you a call and find out the information that you need. And if there's an opportunity there for you, great. But if there isn't, then you're not obligated to take up that opportunity. So just take all the information in that you can, and then you'll be better placed to make a decision. And I started by saying not to panic, and I'll end by saying not to panic. It's easy for all of us as panelists to say not to panic. None of us have been through the kind of experience that you've been through regarding exams and qualifications this year. But I would just encourage you to think ahead, come up with a bit of a plan. And absolutely, if there's anything you're unsure about on results, before results day, on results day, and the days that follow, please just get in touch with universities. We do understand, and we are here to help. So please get in touch. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Rebecca. I hope you enjoyed all of the presentations today, and we're now going to answer some of your questions. So on the Q&A on Zoom, we've had lots and lots of questions, and our panelists have been working hard to get those results back to you. And we've also had lots of questions through on our YouTube as well, so we'll be working through them now and giving you the questions live. So you may hear an answer on here which is similar to a question that you have. But if you have another question that you feel we don't answer, just pop it through on the Q&A, especially if you're watching on Zoom. Our panelists will get back to you, and we'll make sure that you have all the answers that you need. So we're going to work through in the same order as we worked through the presentations. So Pete will be up first, and this is a question for Pete. Could you go through the 3 p.m. clearing window again? So how does this work? When does clearing open and when does clearing close?
Right, I'm back. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't very clear with that, was I, everyone? So in terms of the 3 p.m. window, well, how it works is, I think, Donovan, you mentioned this, didn't you, in your presentation? So Track will unlock at 8 a.m. on Thursday. And what UCAS, and indeed what we don't want you to do, is just make a knee-jerk reaction at like 8:03 of being like, oh my God, what do I do? And just choose something somewhere, because you won't have thought about it enough. You won't have kind of surveyed the options that are available. And again, as Donovan said, your school or college, particularly this year, and there were quite a few questions about this in the chat, they might well have not been able to support you in the way that they normally would as well. So the 3 p.m. window is there to give you almost like an enforced window to think about what you want to do. So you can't add a clearing choice before 3 p.m. So what you should use that time to do is, like I said at the top of the live stream, is dust off, or have done it before, as I told you to do. Get your research out from the main cycle, phone around some institutions that maybe you want to speak to that day, get all that information together so that come 3 p.m. you can then make that clearing choice, add it through your UCAS Track, having made as considered a decision as you possibly can. Now, you don't have to do it at 3, you could do it at 5, 6, you could do it the following day, whatever is right for you. But that's what that 3 p.m. window is there for. And clearing, then you can add a clearing choice at any time beyond that, right the way up until pretty much towards the end of October. But what you'll see is different universities who have different start dates will start to exit clearing themselves, depending on their own course start dates. So the majority of clearing activity tends to happen the first couple of weeks after A-level results. But nonetheless, we'll still have people adding themselves as a clearing choice well into September, for example, at the University of Law. But I'm hopeful that kind of clears up what that 3 p.m. window is for. And as I say, we get loads of students, particularly if mum and dad might be working, and coming back home and stuff that evening. We get a batch of people kind of apply to us straight away at 3 o'clock, but then we get loads that come across that evening when people have sat down and had a heart-to-heart and stuff and worked out what they want to do. So it really does vary, but I'm hopeful that answers the question, Megan.
That was perfect. Thank you, Pete. Next up, we have a question for Charlotte. If I miss my firm university conditions by 1 grade, am I able to phone up and still get on my desired course, even if it says on Track that I've been unsuccessful?
Thank you, Megan, and thank you for the person who asked the question. So the outcome on UCAS Track is normally the kind of decision that's been made by that university. What you might find is that there are courses that are very similar at the university, which they might have already offered you as an alternative. They might have got in touch with you. But if you're really set on the university, it might be because of the location or just that you know that university is right for you. You could contact them and see what the alternatives are in terms of your course. But usually the decision that's written, that's kind of submitted on UCAS is that final decision. But do explore other courses.
Thank you, Charlotte. Next up, a question for Donovan. What should I do if my desired course isn't on a university's clearing page? Is there any other ways that I can look into if they still have that on offer?
Yeah, so I think the one thing I always encourage is talking to unis in person or on the phone as much as possible, because sometimes either their web pages maybe might not be completely updated if courses are changing sort of as people are putting the offers in through the UCAS Track, etc. I would also encourage, as has been mentioned by several of us throughout the thing, having multiple universities that you're considering through clearing, because it might be that the same course is available at one of the other universities that you were considering and not that specific one, and vice versa in terms of the university you're interested in as your first clearing choice might have a slightly different course from what you're looking at, but is maybe very similar that you could also consider. So I think the best thing to do is, even if it's maybe on the list and not there anymore, or wasn't on the list to begin with, you can ring them anyway and ask the question. They'll be willing to talk to you, because they'll be able to give you sort of the closest thing they can offer you if they aren't able to offer you that as well. So that's what I would say to do. And as has been mentioned as well, the UCAS website does have a list of the courses that are available for that universities have sort of put on there for clearing. But yeah, as I say, if there is ever any doubt and it's those days where you can sort of results day or the following days after, please just call the clearing lines for universities and they'll be happy to sort of talk you through. If it is available, then great. If it's sort of something similar or not, then they'll be able to give you that information as well. But having multiple options will mean you've got more choice to look at.
Perfect, thank you, Donovan. Next up, a question for Jess. Can I apply through adjustment if I've met the requirements for my first choice, but I no longer want to go there? Or do I have to have had higher grades than my first choice to go through adjustment?
So to go through adjustment, you have to have exceeded your grades for your firm choice. So say your firm choice wanted, I don't know, 3 Bs and you got 3 Bs, unfortunately you wouldn't be eligible to go through adjustment, but you could apply to another university via clearing if you want to. It's only if you have exceeded your grades. So say, for example, you get A, B, B, or 3 As or whatever it may be, as long as you have exceeded your grade, and that's when you can go through adjustment, and you will be able to see that you are eligible for adjustment via your track.
Perfect, thank you, Jess. Next up, a question for Rebecca. How long do I have to accept a clearing offer? So say I've received a provisional one over the phone, do I need to accept that straight away, or if they'll give it to someone else if I don't do it then?
That's a good question. I mentioned about the change of course, and there's a 5-day window for that. What I would advise is, I don't think there's a set amount of time. And I understand the students will feel pressured to accept, but I would also encourage them not to kind of rush that decision, particularly if they're looking at a university option that might be very different to what they, for a number of different reasons, might be very different to their first initial 5 choices that they made. So I would say that there's no time window. Clearing is open, I think it's still a date sort of early in October, but I would encourage them to think about it carefully, consider all of the possibilities, and then respond as soon as they feel comfortable to do so, but certainly don't feel rushed to do so.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next up, a question for P. If I haven't already applied to uni and I get my results and decide that this is what I want to do now, how can I apply to uni now?
Yeah, sure. That's quite a gentle question. Thank you. So you can apply direct to clearing. So yeah, you essentially set up a UCAS account as you would have done in the normal cycle and apply direct through to clearing. That's the simplest way to do it. And then essentially you'll be kind of going straight into the process that those students who applied in the main cycle and have ended up in clearing, you'll all be in the same boat. What you might need to think about when you're speaking to institutions, depending on the institution, some of them might ask for a personal statement and things like that. Others may not. So you might have a slightly different experience there. But I would certainly get on the phone whilst you're kind of creating your UCAS application, if you see what I mean. It doesn't take that long when you know where it is you want to go, if that makes sense. Whereas if you're doing it in the main cycle, you've got the whole kind of like angst about just making your 5 choices and everything. So in a way, actually applying direct through clearing is a bit simpler.
Perfect, thank you, Pete. Next up, a question for Charlotte. If I've received an offer from university in the main cycle, say back in February, and I decided I didn't want to go there, can I reapply to them through clearing if I've changed my mind?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it might be that you decide that you want to go there for various reasons, and yes, you can. So obviously there's no guarantee that there will be places still available, but you can ring the university and yeah, they'll be able to tell you whether it's available. There's not going to be any judgment about the fact that you declined or anything like that. So yeah, definitely worth a go if you've reconsidered.
Perfect, thank you, Charlotte. A question for Donovan. If my offer's based on grades, do they balance each other out? So if I had to get a BBB and I ended up getting an ABC, would that still mean that I'd accept my offer and I'd get in?
Yeah, I think the really important thing is understanding what is meant by the BBB. So it might be that universities are saying you have to have 3 Bs at A level, in which case they wouldn't balance out because all 3 have to have achieved at least the B. However, some universities may say that they would need a certain amount of UCAS points, which is the equivalent of 3 Bs. In that case, they might balance out in terms of they would equal the same amount of points if you got A, B, C, for example. So it's really important for students to kind of be aware, is it specifically saying it needs to be 3 specific grades, or are they saying it needs to be a specific amount of UCAS points? Within that, there is a little sort of caveat to add in terms of sometimes universities that base it on UCAS points might say for certain degrees or certain subjects that you need to have one particular grade in one subject. So for example, at Roehampton, ours is based on UCAS points, but then we do have for some of our courses like nursing, you have to have a science at a particular grade. So it might be that for certain areas or certain fields of study that you have a combination of the two. So it's important to go back to the offers that you've been given and make sure you fully understand them in terms of whether it is specific grades they're asking for or the UCAS points that those grades are worth, because it can be a slightly different answer for the 2 situations.
Perfect, thank you, Donovan. Next up, a question for Jess. What happens if I want to defer my entry once I've received my results?
So my advice would be that you would speak to your university that you hold your offer from and say that you wish to defer, and it is up to the university whether or not they will allow that deferral. It depends on how competitive that course is. It depends on the kind of environment and the application environment. But my advice is that if you wish to defer, speak to the university on the morning of results day via their confirmation lines to say what you wish to talk through with them, and then they'll be able to give you an answer. I hope that helps.
Perfect, thank you, Jess. Next up, a question for Rebecca. Can I change my insurance choice now? So say if I sent those 5 offers off back in January, I got them all back as a yes. Can I change my insurance to a different one now?
Thanks for the question. You can't change your insurance choice at this point. So you'll be aware that when you made your firm and insurance choice, you would have declined offers at other institutions. So your firm and insurance choice will remain the same thing. But if one of the 5 that you applied to that you initially declined, you are interested in studying there now, and that might be for a number of different reasons, then what you can do is apply to that institution via clearing. Obviously, it's not guaranteed that this place is available, but again, as we've heard several times, get in touch with the university that you're interested in, go on their website, have a look if they've got clearing vacancies, and then you'll be able to, if you meet the requirements for your firm or your insurance choice, then you'll need to release yourself into clearing and then add that university then as a clearing choice. I should have mentioned just really briefly in my talk about self-release. So there was a time when students had to phone universities, so their firm choice or their insurance choice university, and if they changed their mind, ask those universities to release them. On Track now, there is a self-release button where students can release themselves into clearing, and obviously opens the market and then opens their choices up in terms of what they might be considering. The only word of caution, I suppose, with the self-release is quite an easy sort of click and you release. Just make sure that you've considered the bigger picture, the things that come with obviously having a firm or insurance choice in terms of guaranteed accommodation, that type of thing. Just think it through before you click that button. And as we've heard already, don't make any rash decisions at 8:03 on Thursday. Sort of take in the whole all the information that you've got and make a decision from there.
Perfect, thank you, Rebecca. I'm just going to have one more question for each of our panellists today, but if you do still have a question, pop it in the chat and we'll work through a few of these after the webinar as well, so we'll make sure that we get those answers over to you. A question for Pete. Say I've got my firm choice offer, but I want to have a little look around and see what else is on offer and call a few different places. Will my firm choice know that I've done that, or am I free to have a look around and do what I'd like to do?
They won't know, no, unless you tell them, which I suggest you don't do. And look, I think realistically, we expect that some students will be looking around, especially, you know, we know that circumstances might have changed for people. What you want to do might have changed. So absolutely go ahead and do that, make some calls and see what's out there. You know, safe in the knowledge that you've got that firm place in your pocket, like Rebecca was just saying. What you absolutely should not do is use that self-release button and then make those phone calls. That would be a kind of a suicidal thing to do. So don't do it that way around. Keep your firm choice in your pocket, and if you do still want to shop around, then you're doing it with something already in the bag.
Perfect, thank you, Pete. A question for Charlotte. How many universities can I apply to through clearing? Is it just one that I can call up, or can I talk to a couple and then make a choice?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you can speak to lots of different universities, so you can really find out whether they'll offer you a place. So what will happen when you call a university is that they'll speak to you. They might have access to your grades through the UCAS function if you give us your ID number, or you can let us know your grades. At that point, you can almost see which ones you will get offers from, and then you don't accept your place until you're happy with the final decision. So you would just accept with one university, and that's where you'll be in a few weeks' time rather, won't it?
Thank you, Charlotte. A question for Donovan next. Will universities be a bit more lenient this year with admission grades if my calculated grades don't show what I think I could have achieved?
Yeah, I think with obviously the current situation that we're in, I think universities have got to be considerate of the fact that there's going to be some sort of flexibility in grades, and also in the times that students are aware of their grades on the day as well. So I think universities are doing everything we can so that as many people can go to university as possible and actually study the subjects that they want to do. So I think whether it's through your UCAS track in terms of them saying that they've confirmed your place potentially with a grade lower if they're able to, if it's happened across the board. If it's not happened across the board and it's one off, it might be that hasn't happened, and then you enter the clearing cycle and you can ring up the universities, as has been mentioned before. So I think it will depend on, as has been mentioned before, how competitive the course is, sort of the university that you're looking at the course at, and also sort of the grades that you're at, whether you're already way above what they were considering for as their sort of entry requirements, then that might not make a huge difference. But if it's sort of on the threshold, then potentially it could. But universities are definitely doing as much as they can to consider additional sort of aspects towards people's applications, like it's been said, sort of reviewing personal statements, reviewing all of the additional sort of work experience and everything that people have got that go alongside their applications as well, to try and help those decisions that this might become a factor in.
Perfect, thank you, Donovan. One for Jess. Is it possible to change my course on results day? So I still want to go to the same university, but I just want to switch my course a little bit. Is that possible?
So that is a very good question. Again, it is completely up to the university that you hold your offer from. So again, I would advise that you ring them up on the morning or throughout the day and say what you wish to change it to, and they will see whether or not that is or isn't possible, because it may be that you are trying to change onto a course that is particularly competitive, or it might be that you're trying to change onto a course that actually has quite a few spaces, so it may be possible, but it will vary from university to university and from course to course. So my advice is, unfortunately, on results day, just give them a ring via the confirmations line.
Thank you, Jess. And our last question for Rebecca. If I had to resit one of my GCSEs this year, so say I resat my English or my maths, and I'm waiting on that grade, can I apply through clearing on Thursday, or do I need to wait until next week when that one comes through?
Good question, and it's always a bit difficult for students waiting for GCSE results because often, depending on the course, universities can't confirm places if GCSE results are required. You can still, if you are still waiting for a GCSE result, you can still look at clearing options. You can have those conversations with universities. But if the courses that you're looking at require a GCSE grade, the university won't be able to confirm your place until they have confirmation of that grade. And that always panics people. But what I would say is that if you're looking at a course that requires GCSE grades, there'll be other people in other students in a similar position also waiting for GCSE grades. So don't feel that you're at a disadvantage. So yeah, do your research, have those conversations, but it might be that your place can't be confirmed until you receive that grade next Thursday.
Perfect, thank you, Rebecca. And that was our last live question for today. Our panelists are going to stick around for a little bit just after the webinar to answer any outstanding questions that are on the Q&A on Zoom. So if you do have something that you feel we haven't covered, do drop it into the Q&A box and we'll do our best to answer that for you. If you're on YouTube or if you just missed the webinar, feel free to go onto our YouTube channel. The live stream is available on there. You can rewind that and have a rewatch, pause it on any links that you think you need, and use all of the advice in the run up to Thursday. If you want to learn more about any of our panelists today, then head to their websites. If you registered on Zoom, then we'll send you over an email a little bit later, and that will have all the links to their websites as well, so you can do some more exploring. We have touched on clearing and adjustment today, but if you want to learn more and have a really detailed look about how clearing and adjustment works, how to secure a place and how to defer, we're running the last of our Results Day webinar series tomorrow at 12, and that's our special clearing, adjustment and deferrals webinar. That's also got 5 different universities on there as well. They'll be giving you advice and answering your questions. You can sign up for free by visiting www.ukuniversitysearch.com. You can also check out yesterday's webinar, which covered calculated grades, how these have been worked out by your teachers and then verified by the exam boards, and how they'll impact admissions this year. That's available on our YouTube channel as well. That's UK University Search. We have a free clearing directory available, which has all the clearing hotlines and web pages. So when you get those results on Thursday, or when you're putting together that plan like we talked about today, if you want everything all in one place, then visit www.universityfinder.org.uk, and there's also a UCAS points calculator there and a really easy way to match you up with courses that fit your interests and your grades. So definitely check that out on Thursday. That's all from us today. I'm sure you'd like to join me in saying a really big thank you to all of our panelists. They've given us lots of advice, answered so many questions and been really helpful. We talked to Pete from the University of Law, Charlotte from the University of Central Lancashire, Donovan from the University of Roehampton, Jess from the University of East Anglia, and Rebecca from the University of South Wales. I hope to see you again tomorrow for our clearing, adjustment and deferrals webinar. But if I don't, then we wish you the very best of luck on Thursday, and thank you for joining us today.